So I'm Jim Moyle, and this is Dr. Benny Tritch, who you probably have heard of. And we're going to have a chat about FSLogix, mainly around the new stuff, which is the cloud cache technology, which I know is of more interest. The new stuff is more interesting to you guys than the old stuff. We are going to cover some of the existing stuff briefly.
Who of you does not know FSLogix? Oh, only one. Good. Two?
3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Okay, so for those 5, I got to walk you briefly through the existing
technology.
Oh, that one. Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the standard, like, marketing thing that we make your lives easier, but everybody says that, and now we want to walk you through the the real thing, so how it works. So, is Christian?
Nope.
No. So we can't do this thing, huh?
No.
Okay. So we're going to continue with that. Okay. So basically what we do is we're working at this workspace market thing. So workspace is the big thing right now. When did that start again? So that was a popular word like 10 years ago, and now we are back to that. So we're not doing server-based computing anymore. We are not doing end-user computing anymore. Now it's all about workspaces. Okay, and it's about the transformation of the workspace. Most of the time we have it locally on-prem, and so we want to migrate that to the public cloud or to the private cloud, and this is something that we're working on. But across the board. So no matter if you have it in your own data center or if you run it in a cloud data center, it's important for you to know that we support all these use cases. And just to walk you through what the FSLogix product suite is based on, it is one core engine that we're using. This is very important for you to know. And the core engine consists of 2 filter drivers. It's kernel mode filter drivers and a Windows service. The reason why this is important, the implementation is fundamentally different to many other implementations that's out there, and there's actually one unique selling point that we will cover in a minute. So we put all our modules on top of the core engine, and the core engine that manipulates the way how applications communicate with the underlying OS. Like I said, it's a filter driver, and basically filter drivers are able to lie to applications. That means the application thinks that it writes to a certain place in the registry or in the file system, but then it's either redirected or we change some of the settings in there. So, or we hide some of the results. And this is basically what we do. So I would say it's a big liar engine, but configurable. And the unique selling point is that if you redirect things, like you redirect data streams that should go to a place in the local file system, and you redirect it to a VHD on your file server, it's indistinguishable for the operating system to something that happens locally. So maybe you want to, well, go into details.
So the indistinguishable thing is the key part here, right? Any idiot can create a VHD and create a junction point on the file system and redirect files into a VHD, right? Yours is the empty one, always, Benny.
Thank you.
So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to tell the application that it's writing locally. So OneDrive is a really good example of this. Right? If OneDrive realizes that you're trying to put its cache in a network location, then it will throw a fit and you will not be allowed to do that. What we're actually doing here is putting stuff on a network location. If you use a junction point, Windows still knows it's a network location. So the filter driver is absolutely key into fooling these applications that they're still installed locally, that the profiles are installed locally, etc.
So if you think it's easy to implement, we, Jim and I, when we met with our engineering team and the development team, we asked them that particular question: how hard is it to implement? And they said it took us 2 years to put it together in a stable way. like a prototype, that was easy to do. But to make it enterprise ready, that it doesn't crash, that it doesn't blue screen, because we're talking about a filter driver that lives in the kernel. So if you do something stupid, the system blue screens. And even worse, I had a customer like a year ago, and so the entire system was freezing. And it only happened if we had like, the customer had like 10 Synapse servers, and it only happened on one of the Synapse servers once per week. So that means certainly the server, some sessions on that server did not respond anymore. And then the admin had to be fast enough to go to the server, go to the console, and shut down the machine before the admin session would freeze. It took us months to find out what the root cause was. Then the engineering team fixed it, and ever since it runs perfectly well. But these are the things that can happen if you are manipulating the file system with a kernel load filter driver. Just to give you an idea. So let's walk me through the individual products as we have them today. It's application masking, Java control, Office 365 containers, and profile containers, right? How does that work? So the application masking first. So you have a master image, you install all your applications on this master image. You can use any deployment method that you want to use, including application layering, including application isolation. It really doesn't matter. You produce your master image using the deployment methods for your apps as you wish. And then we assign user groups to applications or sets of applications that we mask, basically hide. And that means there is no way the user can see this application if the user belongs to one of these masking security groups. So it is reverse layering if you want to look at it from that perspective, because layering means that you're putting one application on top of each other, and all of the application layers on top of the operating system, and we do it the other way around. We mask those applications, we hide them. And we do it on a per user basis. So you can have different users locked on to the same Synapse server, RDSH server, Horizon RDSH server. It doesn't matter for us. It doesn't matter what the remoting technologies. We can also do it on physical machines, so it doesn't really matter for us. And then for the user in a multi-user environment that is assigned to one of those security groups, the applications are masked. And there's no way you can find them on the system anymore, so we mask everything. Okay, that is application masking, also used for license management. That is something that many of our customers are using this for. But basically, they're using it to reduce the amount of golden images that they need to maintain. That is the #1 use case.
So we also have a lot of customers who use it to reduce the amount of layers.
Yep.
So it's really good at that last mile stuff. The things that are really hard with application layering and AppV, we're really good at. So various plugins, hiding parts of applications, doing device-based licensing. So it's great to use in combination with another app delivery technology as well.
Thomas, you have a question?
Can you go more into details what you mean with the licensing?
Can we?
So I'll do it really quickly. So device-based licensing, you're assigned to the device you're connecting from. It's obviously not the Synapse server itself. So in a Citrix environment, you create an environment variable with your client name. We tie the masking to the environment variable. So if your iPad is licensed to have Visio, and you log on to the Synapse server, then you have Visio. But if you log on from a desktop, you don't have it, even though Visio is installed on that same server and you're logging onto the same server. That's one thing. The second thing is you need historical reporting before Microsoft will accept this. Yeah? So we have reporting in the product as well. And the third thing you need before Microsoft will accept it is that you need to prove that you're not violating license moving. So you can reassign a license to another device, but then you can't do it again within 3 months. Yeah? So you need to make sure you're not violating that either, and we can enforce that within the product as well. So those three things in combination, tying the app to the device name, historical reporting, and managing movement of licenses around devices. Once you have all three of those, Microsoft will accept you for device-based licensing.
And you need to be part of the software asset management processes that are established in the customer.
You have tested it with hardware dongles, so licensing hardware dongles.
The hardware side, like the client side of the house, this is being covered through Device Trust. So we're working with Device Trust on that. So they feed the results of what's going on the endpoint into the virtual session or the remote session, and we can consume it and react accordingly and block the application or not. Okay? Alrighty. So that's the app masking piece. Java control is pretty much the little brother of application masking. So what it does is you have multiple Java runtimes in the system, and you assign Java applications to one of those Java runtimes, and we control it so that you make sure that you only run a certain Java runtime when you start a Java application. You can configure it, and this is the screenshot of how it works. So if you have Java applications, you think this is the coolest feature in the world. If you don't have Java applications, you couldn't care less. So it's a pretty binary thing when we talk to customers. Okay, the next thing is the Office 365 container. This is the most successful module right now because it solves the problem that you have when you're running Office 365, Outlook, OneDrive, OneNote in a multi-user environment like Senap, RDSH, because typically you need to configure Outlook in online mode so that it connects to the Exchange server in the cloud. What users typically want to have is the same user experience as they have on their laptops. They want to have cached Exchange mode so that the OST file is cached on the local machine. Now, this is not supported officially by neither Citrix, Microsoft, or VMware, so we add the functionality that you can cache the OSTs and the other online services that come with Office 365 in a container, which is a VHD that lives in a file server. And so you can just attach the VHD to the user when the user logs on, so it supports the roaming in a Senap or RDSH environment. Anything to add to that?
I've got videos. So we'll
You got videos. Oh, cool. So, and the last thing that we have in here, there's the animation. Look at that. So all the things that I just mentioned. So the Outlook OST, Windows Search DB that is roamed, which is really tricky because the Search DB, the search database, is not multi-user. So what we do is we extract the per user search results into an individual file and keep it in the container, the Office 365 container. This is a very important feature. So OneDrive cache, Skype for Business, global address list, OneNote cache, the license roaming, all this is included in the Office 365 container.
Yeah, but all Office applications which are available right now supported, so Teams, Planner.
Yes.
Very good question. So Teams is now supported. I think that's pretty new.
So Teams doesn't actually have a local cache. Teams does a weird thing like Chrome does. It just installs straight to your profile. So as part of the profile roaming, we can roam the Teams stuff as well. But Teams doesn't have a large cache right now. There are plans within Microsoft to allow more caching in Teams as it becomes a richer application. And as soon as they have caches, we'll also take care of that.
One question about search DB roaming. Is it just the search index of Outlook, or is it the whole search index?
Here it is, the search index of Outlook. It's the OST file. We always have the request if we can support all the entire.
So we do on certain OSs support the index for the file system as well. But if it's a client-based OS, then we'll support the file system indexing too, but in a multi-user right now it's just the OST.
And the thing is that the search engine is not very stable that comes from Microsoft, and this is why we asked them to implement it in a proper way, also in multi-user capable. And this is what Microsoft announced for Server 2019. So basically they're taking this feature away from us, but to be honest with you, we're extremely happy about that because we just had like a Band-Aid to solve that particular problem. Yes, we can do it, but it's not the most elegant way of doing it. So we are happy that Microsoft has taken away that feature from us. Most probably they will not backport it to the previous versions. Like, I'm talking about Server 2019, so it's not going to be available probably on Server 2016. So this leaves us some time to, well, generate revenue to that.
Is OneNote also not such a nasty application?
It is.
The cache and
Yes, so OneNote has cache as well.
OneNote is cancelled.
Sorry?
Oh, OneNote will go away, but
Yeah, it will go away.
today we still have it. As long as we have it, we support it. That's absolutely right. Another application that really hurts us is OneDrive, because you can have up to 1 terabyte per user, and this is why we talk about Cloud Cache in a minute or 2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
We need to be quicker.
Yeah. The other thing is the profile containers, and it works exactly in the same way. Instead of sending all the Office 365 stuff to a VHD, we're sending the user profile to a VHD and redirect all access to the user profile, hiding from the system that it lives on a file server. That's pretty much the idea. We are not managing the user profile, absolutely not. We are redirecting it, keeping it as simple as possible. If you want to manage it, there are other solutions out there that may be a better match. But then, this is the reason why we have separated the profile container from the Office 365 container. So if you're using an alternative profile management solution, you can still use our Office 365 container side by side. If you decide to use our profile container, it replaces any other profile solution you have implemented. There was a question?
So profile container contains Office 365?
This is correct, except for the search engine implementation. That is the only thing, like the OST roaming thing, that is only limited to the Office 365
Index
container. Indexing, sorry about that. This is only in the Office 365 container product. But if you have profile container, you can use all the features are included. But if you want to separate those two things, then you want to acquire, want to buy both of the modules. Okay. Now you have videos. You said. Oh, yeah. Play the. Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh, wonderful animation. Huh? We
That was
completely missed that, huh? Now you run the videos.
Yeah.
It's your videos.
Alright, so this is app masking. So super quick. So we can see Acrobat Reader's installed. File type association is there.
Here?
So, so this is a wizard generated. This is rules generated with one click. And now I'm just going to apply those rules to the system. And we can see that Adobe's gone from the file system. File type association is gone. And if I refresh control panel, we can see that it's gone from control panel as well. So that's app masking.
One question.
Yeah.
You did a refresh in your Explorer, but you're still in the Adobe path. It doesn't error out as it does not exist at all.
So the rule is so that I'm doing the child folders to that path. Yeah. So I'm not it would do if I'd hidden the parent path as well. Yeah. Because Explorer's like that doesn't exist anymore. So yeah. This is the Java stuff. So whole lot of rules. And we're going to run some processes. This application is just a Java app, so we can see that's Java version 4. And let's run the test app, which you won't be able to see. That's Java version 6. And another one you won't be able to see was Java version 5. But then I shall zoom in and we'll prove it is the correct version of Java. All right, Java.
Who uses Java?
Well, all right. Hang on a minute.
Like I said, it's a binary thing. Some of our customers do, and this is the most important module for them.
Yeah.
We do.
So, all right, let's ask the question. Who still has Java in their environment? All right.
Who really wants to have Java in their environment? See, that is the thing.
That is the thing, right? So
That is the
Java
thing.
is still a problem. Unfortunately, we all wish it had gone away years ago, but it hasn't.
Hey, it makes you guys money.
It does make us money, yes.
As long as Java is there, we gotta sell
Yeah.
the Java module.
So this is just logging into an audio station environment. All I'm going to do, so it's a clean profile. Using our profiles, we logged in very quickly. And just start Outlook, and all we're going to see is that it's starting in cache mode, and the index is already there. So we're going to show that remaining items to be indexed is 0. And we can see we're connected to rather than online with Outlook.
I do many training classes, and what I do is I set myself an email before I start a session with my own Office 365 container, and I have to be very quick to go to exactly that dialog box to show that it's for a short time, it's indexing, it's updating the index, and then everything is there, and it behaves like it does on my local notebook. So this is the demo that I typically do, live demo during the training classes.
Thank you. So that was a super quick run through what we do now.
Look at that, 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Wow.
That's perfect. Bang on. So those are the 4 current modules. We've just announced Cloud Cache. You can download the tech preview from the website, fill out a form, and it will be GA in 2 or 3 weeks. So what Cloud Cache does, it applies to these 2 products. So these are the 2 products where we're storing stuff in a VHD on a network. One is the Office 365 caches, the other is the profile. And what we're going to do is we're going to solve a problem that you've had for 20 years. Not that one, you still have to keep taking the meds for that one, Thomas.
Fancy
So the problem is, how do I have my profile in multiple places simultaneously, all synced up together? And Cloud Cache is the way to solve that. Do you want to?
Let me say something about the name Cloud Cache. Everybody believes that this is something that works only in the cloud. No, this is a marketing term.
Yes.
So cloud is cool, so our marketing decided to call it Cloud Cache. It also works on-prem.
Does it mean caching the cloud on-prem?
No, we do not. We don't copy the. We don't copy the entire cloud down to. No. That's a very good question. Do you sort of make a backup of the cloud? No, we don't. But the general idea is very simple. What you do is that, like Jim pointed out, you want to be able to store your profiles and your Office 365 container. You want to be able to store it on-prem or in the cloud or in both at the same time. And so you want to use the native protocols. So SMB if you're local, and you want to get connected to the storage blobs in the cloud. And like with the other, what I said previously, it doesn't matter if you're physical or if you're using an RDSH server or a Synapse server. So it solves the problem that we have when customers tell us, hey look, what happens if I lose my file server while the VHD of the user's profile is located there and attached to the user session. And for all of you who have ever used user profile disk, what happens is you lose the connection to the VHD, and you never come back to the VHD, and when the user logs off, a temporary profile is created, and when the user logs on again the next time, he either ends up on the same machine or he ends up on a different machine, and the user experience is not what he expects because, all the settings that he did last time are lost. Or the entire user profile is scrambled. So that's also what's happening. Okay, so what you do then is you have the option to connect to multiple places where you store the user profile. That's the idea, that's behind all that. So I call it splitting the stream of data that goes to the different locations where you can have the profile. So The next thing is that you can configure it in such a way that it caches some of the information locally. What does that mean? That means the applications don't even notice when the connection to the file server or all the file servers is lost, because there is a local buffer that we're using, and if we configure it to use a persistent cache, we even go further and allow to cache the profile or the Office 365 VHD locally. So as long as we write to this cache, even if we have lost connection to all the file servers, the applications keep on working. And as soon as the connection comes back to the file servers, we synchronize everything. If the connection to only one file server gets lost, okay, so everything is synced up with that one file server. If the other one comes back, then everything is synced to the second file server. That makes it really resilient. And this is what customers were asking us for, because in the past, we were only able to write to one file server and left it to the customer to configure their file servers to be like in a cluster or fail over or high availability or whatever.
So as Benny says, we can have a local cache. And whenever you say that, anybody who uses PVS goes, hang on a minute, where are you storing that cache data? Because, I've got a PVS write cache and that's pretty small. And if you bring down my entire form by filling that up, I'm going to be very displeased with you.
That's at least.
Luckily for all of you, we've thought of that. And you can store it locally on the file system, but you can also store it on near-line storage. Yeah, so anything fast and near to your XenApp servers, so you make sure you don't blow out your PVS write cache.
So, first tier. Click. So, what are the benefits? Come on.
So, HA, resilience. So reduce cloud storage costs. This is really interesting.
No, wait. I think we have. Do we have? No, we don't have a slide for that. Okay.
Is it block-based?
Yes, it's block.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, block-based rather than cloud-based. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the interesting things you can do. So we're going to be start with Azure Blob and then S3, and this is going to be outbound on 443. So we're going to use REST to communicate with the cloud-based storage. And that means you can do some interesting things, because when you're paying for cloud-based cloud storage, you pay for three things, right? You pay for the amount of data you have there, and you pay for your reads and your writes from it. Writes are about 10 times more expensive than reads. Now, because we would advise a local cache when you're looking at cloud storage, latency, etc. It means that now we can do, because it's asynchronous sync back, if you're making a REST, so it's not reads and writes, it's actually REST puts and gets that you're getting charged for. So now you can optimize for puts. So you say, well, I've got a maximum number of blocks, or maximum block size rather, that I can do in a single put. So then we can optimize for transport into and out of the cloud in terms of money. So you're not paying as much, you're paying the least amount possible for your throughput to these cloud storage areas.
But this is the moment where it really becomes the cloud cache. So this is where the name comes from. But like I said, we have implemented in such a way that you can start with it on-prem. And here are the most important features, like the thing that I said earlier, the storage continuity. So that you make sure that your profiles or Office 365 containers are written into the file system of a file server, and it can be multiple locations of the file server now. And we keep it in sync. So that is important. And here are the costs. We had a slide. Okay. It's also for on-prem. It works for that as well. We have a question there.
Is it different from the backup file server that you can configure in the calls?
Yes.
It is very different to the backup file server that we have, because the backup file server, it goes, if you lose connectivity to the primary file server, it goes to the next. And it tries to see if there is the VHD available. If you did not take care for making sure that the VHD is available there, it's not going to find anything. So now we make sure that the VHD is available on all the different locations. So that's a fundamentally different way of dealing with it.
And if you lose a file server, it's invisible to the user. Yeah.
Because
so you can have
communicating with the buffer. rather
Yeah.
than with the file server.
Yeah.
So the buffer is in between, and so the buffer takes care for sending the the data to the different locations.
Yeah. And it's not just two, you can have n number, right? And you can have a local one or two local ones, or one in New York and one in London and one in Azure. Question?
Is this other technology, or did you mount VHP and use Cloud Cache to cache the VHP between something kernel driver, etc.? Also architecture.
So the architecture is super simple. It's just controlled by group policy. So, or however you want to get registry settings into HK local machine, we don't care, but group policy is the normal way. And all we need is some file shares. And in the future, like I say, all we need is the address of the storage, the cloud storage. Yeah. So there's no SQL servers, there's no application servers, there's no web servers, none of that. Everything is in the driver on the VM.
I think he was more referring to how the architecture is when the communication flow from the application to the profile, for example.
You're correct. He's nodding. He's nodding.
And so what happens is you're not writing to the filter driver directly anymore. So we're writing to the buffer, and the buffer goes to the filter driver, and the filter driver sends it out like a split stream to the different locations, and then it comes back. When the application reads, it comes back by the buffer asking for the data to be downloaded, like a block transfer from the VHD. This is how it works. So this buffer or cache sits between the communication flow between the application and the VHD.
So because it's a filter driver, as far as the user layer of Windows is concerned, this is just your local file system. It can't tell the difference. Obviously, once you get to the kernel layer, things change, but the user layer absolutely thinks that this is just standard local file system. This is a bit dodgy. So this comes from a use case that is one of my customers. They bought a whole load of laptops a couple of years ago. They're 128 gig of local SSD storage. And they said, well, we want OneDrive. How much space are you going to give people in OneDrive? Well, we thought 500 gigs. All right, well, that's not going to fit on your local drive, is it? So effectively, what they're doing is they're mounting the VHD from the network into their local physical desktops to save themselves on space, so they don't have to rebuy their entire lot of physical estate just to enable OneDrive. So, hence saving local storage. It's a bit of an edge use case, to be honest with you. It works.
I have an interesting edge use case as well, because I have a customer who decided that they want to have 20 different locations where they store user profiles. But they have groups of users that have access to one individual location. So what they do is they log on the user, they try to attach the VHD from location 1. If the user doesn't have the permission, they fall back using the backup file server to number 2, to number 3, to number 4, to number 5. If the user really has only permissions on number 20, they fall back through the entire stack. Now, I was wondering how long is it going to take until a user, when the user logs on, is at number 20. And we found out that it takes, that we can have four times trying to connect to one of the locations per second. So the maximum the maximum time we lose is 5 seconds for those users that have their profile on the 20th location. And so I tried to find out if that also works, that mechanism for Cloud Cache. And well, I have confirmation that it is the same mechanism. So we could define like dozens of potential locations, and we could just go through those until we have a match, and then we have like 2 locations where the user has the permissions, and then it's exactly those 2 locations where the data goes. which I find very, very attractive for some large customers.
Thomas, you got a question?
Yeah, so with the logs, analytics, auditing.
Oh my God!
So the question is logs, analytics, and auditing, which is more of a statement than a question, but I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Necessary if you want to look at what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So
That's British humor. We don't get it.
just take it. All right. We got 10 minutes left, so we're going to take that out afterwards.
After the session, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is what we have today.
Yep.
This is when you download it now. And this is what comes for free. It's included if you already have Office 365 container or Profile container. That will be included. We just add this functionality, the Cloud Cache functionality, to the product if you are a customer.
So this is one storage location, not multiple. That's built in. Just want to be clear.
Yeah. And as soon as you want to have more, and we're working on this more, so that you really have the support for cloud locations, for example, side by side with an on-prem location, which is very attractive. So suddenly you can store your profiles both on-prem and in the cloud, and your cloud location is basically your backup location. And it's like an active cluster that you're creating using this technology. That is what is going to be in the add-on module. So this is going to be something that you buy.
New statement?
Can you just go one back?
One back.
One back.
Can you just put some numbers on when you do all the cloud cache writes? Are we talking about seconds or?
Yes. So it depends on the speed of the storage, right? So we'll give it the data to the storage as fast as it will accept it. So in normal, although it is async, yeah, we're talking milliseconds rather than seconds under normal situations, right? But the advantage that async gives you is if your storage is slow or you have a peak locally, you don't have to wait to acknowledge the write from a high latency or a slow location. So hence, it may in that case take much longer for the data to get up. But in normal circumstances, milliseconds.
But we're going to learn a lot in the field as soon as this technology is out there, because there may be file servers that are actually slow. So is there going to be a timeout if the volume of data is just too much for the file server to consume? So how are we going to handle that? So probably the local file server, the on-prem file server, is much faster than the cloud file server, and you're just putting data into your profile. So what are we going to do if it takes like forever to synchronize everything to the cloud storage? This is something that we will learn in the future, and then we will be able to configure that.
So you have all the data with like latencies and stuff like.
Well,
do you need Uber agent or?
Oh, we can use all that. We don't. You're asking for monitoring data.
Yeah.
We're writing log files, but we don't have a tool yet that visualizes all the monitoring data that we have.
So Uber agent or?
Yes.
Yeah. So use a third-party monitoring tool.
Whatever you want to use.
Cool.
Okay.
Benny, this is actually what we need, some kind of calculator to the IOPS part of this.
You know, Jim and I are on your side, and we permanently nudge our engineering team to do exactly that. So when we're standing here and you're asking this question, hey, why didn't you do that? We always ask, because we are in the field like you are, and we get this question constantly. You want to comment on that?
So about a month ago, we got about $7.5 million in VC funding. That is what some of that is going to get spent on.
There's an answer.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if you have your cache locally, it's to optimize your writes to the cloud.
Yeah.
And you have multiple users working, someone saves a file, goes into the cache, another one opens it, just opens it, does some update or whatever as well. It's smart enough, I guess, to at least share the new file, but does it also optimize then before, if it hasn't written it to the cloud yet?
Yeah.
Does it pick the latest version and then push it, or is it
So
you write it twice?
So, just because of the way VHDs work, yeah, it's last writer wins.
Yes.
Yeah. So, doing sort of version control and merging and clever stuff like that would be good, but would be very hard. And it's actually impossible just in the way that Microsoft has made VHDs right now. Yeah. So we can have multi-sessions looking at a single VHD because we're making diff disks off the VHD.
Like concurrency, user concurrency.
User concurrency to the same profile, right? So you can have 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions simultaneously. But what it is last writer wins. The last diff disk around is the one that merges its changes back into the master. Does that make sense?
Just more think about the
But this is where profile management solutions come in.
Yes.
into this.
We're not managing it, we are redirecting.
Yeah.
This is part of the other guy.
Yeah,
from your
yeah.
point of
And
view.
this is why we have this diagram.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. So Xerox server, and right now, as Benny says, what you can get is you can get multiple locations for your VHD, so both Office 365 and your profile containers, over SMB to any UNC path you like. We support any SMB, so scale-out file server, whatever, that's all fine. NetApp.
We have customers with Novell and an SMB plugin and it works. You wouldn't believe that.
That's the first I've heard of it, and I almost don't believe it. In the first point release, yeah, we will have outbound over 443 REST access to Azure, and then S3 will come in later. Now, and you can have all of these simultaneously. You could have 2 data centers plus cloud, plus a second cloud, and all work simultaneously. You have an optional local or nearline cache, which is especially useful for the cloud storage, right? Because you've got latency issues.
You always have a buffer,
Yeah.
but then you can configure a cache that is.
So you always have a buffer in RAM, right? But you can also configure a local file system cache.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, imagine then that instead of this local cache being just the hot data, that it's now 100% of your profile configurable. And in that case, now your offline use case is covered. Yeah. So now it doesn't matter whether your user is offline, they're logging onto a Xerox server in your data center, and they're pulling in a publish app from another data center, and then you've got DR or other VDAs in the cloud. Your profile is now synced up in all locations continuously with no architecture, so no SQL servers, no replication, etc.
So I could connect from my Citrix, migrate to Frame.
You could.
You could indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. So you could. All right. So yes, you could. You could connect from Citrix and then log into Frame, and you would still have your.
We're completely independent of these underlying solutions.
So Frame is an interesting use case. So we're doing a lot with Frame at the moment. You may hear something about that soon.
Do you have a video? Come on.
No, it's too long.
Oh, it's too long.
Yeah. So is there? I think we're just about.
We're just about 2 minutes left.
Yeah. So in our last couple minutes, yes, sir.
Is the buffer configurable as well?
No.
So the buffer is just a small amount of RAM that we take to manage to split the I/O between multiple locations. So that's very small. The size of the file system cache that is optional, yeah, right now is not configurable, but we know we need to do that.
Yes.
And that will come very soon. So it's a high-level roadmap item for this product.
Yes. But this is what you want. You want a configurable
Yeah.
cache.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know this,
Yes.
and it's on the way.
I want
Yes.
a test that is local to the VM as well.
So if
Can follow along with the program.
if you do want to use your PVS write cache or your MCS diff disk as the local file system cache, then you absolutely need to be able to set a maximum on that to prevent you blowing out your cache, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't
You know,
do
this is
don't
why
do
we're
that now,
CTPs.
because we don't have a maximum, right? So use nearline storage. Yeah? But we know we need to do it, and it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah. Any more questions? Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
My colleagues, the sales guy, Michelle. What's your question, Michelle?
Oh my God.
No, I was wondering if you can use this for geographical use cases, so then you
Yes.
Pick the one that's closest to you.
Yes, so effectively we'll make sure that we're picking the nearest location for reads. So you can absolutely store, so if you've got users that wander around the globe and you've got a data center in London, New York and Perth, then they will always, whenever they log onto that setup server, they will use their local profile to that geo. And when they come back, they will also use the local profile back in London. And none of this requires setting up rules or user intervention or anything like that. This just all happens automatically in the background.
You say it's asynchronous synchronization.
Yeah.
So if you have some file storage which is slow and
Yes.
synchronization hasn't happened,
Yes.
and you get geolocation,
blows up.
and then you're on that side, you
So-
don't have all your settings or
Yeah. So if your mean write time is your mean write volume is greater than the mean intake volume of the target storage, you are absolutely going to have data that hasn't made it there, right? Because it's just not fast enough for the amount of data you're writing. What we will do is on log off, right? We will delay the log off while we try and sync up. Yeah. So we will try and catch up. If that is not possible, and it takes too long, we will kill that connection, right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you've got 1,000 users that are writing to something that takes 18 hours and you're delayed log off and you come back and you don't want to be there. So we will try and catch up if possible on log off. If it's not possible, we'll kill it. And that will be user configurable, will be that time that you're allowed to try and catch up.
The funny thing is we exactly had this conversation when we were preparing this session earlier today. And I'm so happy that we have a team member who is an expert in storage, because I'm not a storage expert. In this case, we need the storage expertise. And Jim is driving many of these features that go into the product. I think you're driving the engineering team nuts, don't you?
Yes. I am not their favorite bunny.
The good thing is that they all are in Salt Lake City and in Utah, and it's a nice engineering team there, and they are very friendly people, and so they can deal with all the stuff that, that Jim is asking them to do. Okay, click, and we should be done.
Yeah.
Huh? Thomas again. Okay.
So reference architecture, I do look from GPDR and stuff like that, security-wise, with some of the customers I've worked with.
Man, we are in
some
the
security
beta.
risk in this.
This is a beta. It's not a shipping product. It's got to ship in a couple of weeks.
So one of the things that I'm pushing the engineering department on, right? Because now you've got data that's like could be smeared across many data centers, many clouds, right? So, I mean, not just to the GDPR, but that's also part of it. But you need to be able to make sure you can delete and tell where everything is. That is not right now in the tech preview, but will be coming very, very soon, because the stuff that I'm battering engineering around the head with, that's one of those things.
Yeah, and you know, the German market is always to the extreme when it comes to security, so I will be the next one who asks for the features. So that's a natural thing to do.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Click. We are done.
That'll stop.
No. This is it. We had the questions. Okay. Thank you very much.